You know, I would say South African farmers are the salt of the earth.
Words that sum up the heartfelt feelings of a journalist who's been chronicling the trials of farming for a staggering 66 years.
Oh, nowadays, I know all the shortcuts. After a lifetime, what used to take me a week at a time, because we do it for a weekly, now it takes me possibly 1 or 2 hours. But of course, I don't let the editor know that. He thinks when he gives me a job, I'll still spend a lot of time on it. So it's very easy for me. I do 3 features for the Farmers Weekly every week, and I enjoy it.
At 92 years of age, George Nicholas has a claim to being the oldest working journalist in the world. He has a column in South Africa's Farmers Weekly magazine and memories going back to when his career began in 1944.
I answered a call in the newspaper for a cadet reporter, and I always had jumping around making this job and that job, and I wasn't very happy. I was already 20 years old, and I applied, and I was very lucky to get the job. But a condition of employment was you had to have a shorthand certificate, official one, that you have passed an examination at 120 words a minute, which was not a piece of cake. It was 2 words a second, you can imagine. Anyway, I managed it, thank goodness. And one of my treasured possessions today is that fading old Pitman's London certificate hanging against my office wall, certifying that I have passed this test at 120 words a minute.
In the days long before email and the internet, he sent his stories by Morse code.
Today, of course, reporters, they have microphones, they have tape recorders, they have computers, laptops, anything, all motor cars, and all the facilities you can imagine. So they have an easy time today to do the task that was a very difficult one for me when I was young. But it was all pleasure and exciting, and I loved it.
Whatever the technology, many issues have stayed the same over the last 66 years.
Today they're still struggling against this input costs. Farming is very expensive. The people who farm today are really experts. Some of them, it's the 4th generation, 2, 3, 4 generations, each generation picking up new, fresh information and improving. And today, the farmer on the farm today, he's a real expert. He knows what to do. But his problem is still the cost of things, cost of tractors, cost of seeds, cost of fertilizer in particular, anything he wants to produce a crop that will give him an income to make him survive financially. That's the very thing. But as I said before, they are resilient. They take loans, and when they have good years, they make money, and they have money to pay off their debts and to buy the new requisites that they need. And farming is payable today, but you must have the knowledge and you must have the farming skills to make a living out of it.
There were triumphs along the way. He won an award for his exposé of the cattle bandits of Mpumalanga.
The primetime bandits of Mpumalanga, and dealt with thieves visiting farms and stealing cattle and sheep and so on for slaughter in the African areas. At the time when the farmer and his family were sitting in the lounge enjoying listening to the news and the entertainment of the evening, and only discovering the next morning that stock has been stolen.
There were also issues that tore at George Nicholas's heart, like the job of reporting farm murders.
There's murder stories, families. I won't go into it, but the farmers living in remote areas had no security. They were targets for anybody who wanted to enter their homes and steal and even shoot and kill them. And it was very difficult or hard for me to hear that some farmer or his wife that I knew personally fell victim. And to go and interview the people who survived to get the information about the person who had been killed, possibly the farmer's wife or his daughter, it was very difficult. And that was one of the unpleasant jobs that I had to do in my time. Not often, but occasionally. And I was very pleased one day I was taken off that beat because I didn't like it. It was very difficult for me.
Now every journalist worth their salt should be ready to admit they were wrong once, that they too had been hoodwinked when young and foolish. George Nicholas remembers a strange tip-off from a farming friend.
You must believe this, I imported from France some 50 female frogs. And I have them, and they were all pregnant. Female pregnant frogs. And I have them on the farm now in a special dam that I built, and I hope to breed frogs and sell frogs' legs to the hotels and so on, where it was popular. Gee, I was so thrilled with this lovely story, and you know what? It made the front page the next day. And a little later, the editor called me in, George, what made you think that female frogs carried were pregnant? I said, well, aren't they? He says, no, they laid eggs, my dear. And we're the laughing stock of the public. But it was very pleasant about it. He said, we put in a correction in the next issue that it was an unfortunate misunderstanding of a young reporter that didn't know any better.
He is the oracle. There's nobody like him. We've only got one real competitor, and that's Landbou Weekblad, and they've got some old timers. But George is he's the patriarch of agricultural journalism by a long yard.
New recruit Sean Christie is following in the footsteps of George Nicholas with a lot more technology at hand. He is watching this technology change the farming beat.
Well, I think farmers you can get hold of them 24 hours, well, during the daylight hours at least, whereas you would traditionally, I think, lodge a message with the farm wife, and he would get back to you when you're good and ready. But now you can get hold of people immediately. So I suppose that's cell phones is one development that's made things a little faster for us, and email as well. Everybody's on email, more or less. Even the verkramptes are very happy, perhaps not to get back to you in English, but there's Google Translate for that. So yeah, there's been an adoption of the usual social networking developments. Well, BlackBerry's got very small keys, and farmers have very big forefingers. So I think that is a little. It's a little hard to visualize at this stage. But they could well, certainly Agri-SA, the farmers' union, and their leadership are, they well into the sort of networking game. And I get BlackBerry feeds from Tanzania and India, wherever Theodore Yaga from Agri-SA happens to be. So certainly organised agriculture knows how to keep in touch with the media.
And for George Nicholas, 92 years young, what does the future hold?
I was hoping to, a short while ago, the staff of the pharmacy gave me a lovely surprise party. And I told them at the end of the party, I thanked them for this wonderful idea, and I hope to have a similar party in 10 years' time, when I will turn 100. But I've changed my mind now. I think I'll go for 110.
Surely farmers everywhere will be cheering him on.